Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I would say the majority schedules the timing of these hearings. But the partisan nature of the Chair's opening comments, I think, belie the broad unseriousness of our current politics in the midst of this pandemic, sadly. But, Madam Chair, I want to welcome Director Kraninger for the first of what I hope are many appearances before the committee in the coming years. If I were not wearing a mask, you'd see that I say that with a smile and an attempt to be lighthearted in the midst of what is a pretty disastrous political discussion we're having here in Washington. So look, committee Democrats are asking questions. Is the CFPB protecting consumers both during and outside of the pandemic? And if you look at the facts in a fair-minded way and recent actions by the Bureau, I can safely answer my colleagues' questions. Yes, they are. Despite what the Democrats say to score political points, this CFPB, under your leadership, Director Kraninger, has worked diligently to provide resources, guidance, and protection for consumers most at risk in these unsettling times. The Bureau has encouraged financial institutions to work with borrowers, provide increased flexibility for supervision and enforcement activities, clarify guidance to mortgage servicers to comply with CARES Act forbearance requirements, create an elder fraud prevention and response network development guide, release an updated COVID-19 consumer complaint data bulletin, outline the roles and responsibilities of credit reporting companies and furnishers, create a consumer relief guide for mortgage payment forbearance and foreclosure protection. Pretty damn good work, I must say. And at the same time, keeping your workforce safe. These are just a few of the CFPB's pandemic-related initiatives. Apart from its response to the pandemic, this Bureau, under your leadership, has approached difficult and polarizing topics with a steady hand over the last year and a half, and I want to thank you for that. You've increased clarity in the market for consumer lending. One example is the Bureau's recent rulemaking to revise the 2017 small dollar lending rule. We know that small dollar loans are a lifeline for millions of Americans in need. They help consumers cover unexpected expenses or income shortfalls during periods of economic stress like we're currently experiencing now. The decision to revise that 2017 rule is a necessary step to increase clarity and access in a market that serves millions of Americans trying to make ends meet. We must continue to review and right-size burdensome regulations that inhibit lending into the real economy at a time when the American people need it most and can least afford that inhibited lending. Lastly, Director Kraninger, as we've discussed in the past, my colleagues and I believe you have too much power. The structure of the Bureau is unchecked by Congress and the President, and and you even agree with me on that consistently before your confirmation, after your confirmation. And since Dodd-Frank's enactment, Republicans have argued the Bureau's structure is unconstitutional. The funding mechanism leaves it unaccountable to anyone. This past June, the Supreme Court agreed with what Republicans have been saying all along. In striking down the structure created by the Democrats in 2010, the Supreme Court found the director holds too much power and violates the separation of powers. We now have a real opportunity to work together on necessary statutory reforms to the Bureau, reforms that will benefit consumers and bring clarity and clear guidance. Leader in that effort is my colleague and friend, Luetkemeyer. And Director Kraninger, I want to thank you for your leadership and want to yield the balance of my time to fellow ranking member Luetkemeyer.
Thank you, Ranking Member, and thank you, Director Kraninger, for being here today. Just a few weeks ago, the Supreme Court confirmed the unconstitutional structure of the CFPB by ruling the CFPB director can be fired at will by the President of the United States. The structure and unprecedented authority of the CFPB have turned it into a political football that will no doubt swing back and forth on the political pendulum, creating uncertainty and confusion for financial institutions and consumers for decades to come. That's why I've introduced legislation to change the leadership structure of the CFPB from a single director that can be fired at will to a bipartisan 5-member commission. Just last Congress, this legislation enjoyed bipartisan support in this committee. However, in the 116th Congress, this common-sense solution has only garnered support from my side of the aisle. Changing leadership structure and increasing government oversight of the CFPB are vital to protect businesses and consumers. I look forward to discussing these issues with you today. With that, Madam Chair, I yield back.